Hello and welcome to Lofty Pursuits and Public Displays of Confection in Tallahassee, Florida. We make hard candy, but we're also a soda fountain and we're also a gaming and toy store. We make our candy by hand using equipment that's over 100 years old from the Victorian era. Today we're going to make some D6 candy to celebrate Tabletop Game Day. Our sugar's been cooked to approximately 310 degrees. It's blistering hot, and we pour it out on our candy cooling table. This piece of equipment was made in 1891 in Connecticut, and its entire function is to drop the temperature of molten sugar. While many of you have seen our candy making and some of the other things around that we have in the shop, a large portion of the shop is dedicated to toys and board games, and people come into the store every day and enjoy ice cream and pull out our demo games and just hang out and play tabletop games. The flavor we're using today is nectar. It's a flavor that kind of changes as you suck on the piece of candy, and it's hard to place. We got the recipe from a candy store called Mullane's that closed in Cincinnati in 1988, but opened in 1848. We're going to stir the food coloring into the candy, and this is going to boil off all the water in the food coloring. The candy is that hot, and we don't want any water in the final product. It'll make the candy sticky. Back in time, back before there even was an internet, there was a slightly obscure TV show called Star Trek: The Next Generation. And on this show was a character that was beloved by all named Wesley Crusher. He was played by Wil Wheaton. Well, Wil Wheaton has grown up, and like me, he has found something he loves to do with his time, and that's play tabletop games. And Tabletop Game Day and his show, Tabletop, are the reasons we're making these D6s today. The table has done its job and has cooled the candy to a more manageable temperature. We've got to cut the palette apart. We have two colors today, white for the background on the inside of the dies, and red for the outside of the dies, the pips, and the wrap. Where the candy has touched the cooling table or the bars, the temperature of the candy has dropped a lot. The center, though, is still liquid and is still well over 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and we've got to average out the temperatures by folding it together. Molten sugar is a non-Newtonian fluid. This means it has properties of both a liquid and a solid, and we're going to take advantage of this during the production process, but it also causes problems. It'll be molten, and if we stop it from moving at any given point if it's above a certain temperature, it's going to flow and change shape whether we want it to or not. At this point, it's convenient because it's going to be averaging out the temperatures of the candy. Our palette of colors for this candy will be red and white. But if you notice, the red was obviously red, but this doesn't look too white, and we need to make it white. And we make it white using the candy pulling hook. We're going to fold the candy over again and again over this hook. Each time we're going to trap air bubbles, thousands or millions of them, and these little bubbles are going to reflect light. Watch, and when we're done, the candy will be bright white. If you ever make it to Tallahassee, you can come to Lofty Pursuits and try our candy in person. But if you can't, you can always get our candy online at www.pd.net. When we pull the candy to become super white, it doesn't just affect the color, it affects the flavor. It now has lots of air bubbles in it, as I said, and this creates a greater amount of surface area, and it increases the flavor of the candy when you pop a piece in your mouth. To keep the design from merging together, we're going to have to work at many different temperatures. Initially, we need the pips, the dots and the dice, to be very, very cold, and we're rolling them here to make them such. This is proving to be a harder video to shoot than I thought. We make these all the time, but this video is hard to show exactly what we're doing with because of the design. The first part of the design I'll be making is the front of the number 5 face of the dice. It's a square with 5 pips in it, and I've made it by making 4 triangular pieces of candy that I've then put a pip in the middle of each face and a pip in the middle. This is being assembled into a square and will then be wrapped in a wrap of red candy. When we build image candy, we're building an image that is in the cross-section of the candy. So it may not be obvious right now, but the square that I'm putting together here, if you cut it right down the center and opened it up, you would see the 5 side of the die. But since I want to do a dice in perspective, there's going to be more that I have to do. I've been turning the square to keep it square all this time. And then I'm building the one face. The one face is built out of 2 triangular pieces of candy with a single pip through the center. The one side gets attached to the candy, and I'd show you the 3 side, but we had some trouble with it and the video didn't come out well. It ended up only getting 2 pips, but that was just a problem, not an oversight. I know that the 2 should be on the opposite side of the 5. The D6 is complete with the final outer wrap of red put on it, but now we've got to space it out into the center of the candy, using white candy as padding. This candy is also going to eventually, because it's hotter, heat up the central artwork and even out the temperature of the candy so we can reduce the shape to its final size. The right side of this table I've been working on is heated. It's been keeping the candy from cooling too rapidly, and the red is still at a very hot temperature while the center is much cooler. I'm going to be wrapping the red wrap around the center, bringing the temperature back up to when I can manipulate it down to a thinner size without distorting the image. This single log of candy is going to make about 1,000 pieces, and to do that I've got to reduce its diameter, and this is the trick. The image is a cross-section in the middle. I've got to reduce it without distorting the image so much that you can't recognize what I made in the candy. The lump on the end is scrap candy, but don't worry, we don't throw it out. We sell it in the store under the name Unicorn Droppings, and people make baked goods out of it and just melt it down and stir it in their tea. Every bit of this candy gets used. I'm going to be pulling the rod into logs, and these logs are so much smaller. They have a lot more surface area to center area, and they cool off much quicker as I roll it. But notice I'm trying to keep everything moving at all times. If I let the candy sit still for any length of time, it will go flat. Mind you, it's still behaving as a non-Newtonian fluid. The candy will go flat if I leave it alone. I can bend it and flex it. But if I hit it with a hard object, like the handle of those scissors, it will snap cleanly in 2, behaving like a solid. It behaves a lot like glass, and this type of candy is often known as candy glass. The candy is now cool, and I've got to cut it into pieces. For this I'll be using a spatula and our Acme Coyote Removal Kit. And our candy is finished. And we can only hope that we can eventually get it back to Will Wheaton, because it is a dream of ours. We feel it is a moral imperative that Wesley Crusher must try our Die 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 candy. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to us on YouTube on the Lofty Pursuits channel. There are a lot more candy making videos there. And check us out on Facebook. And of course you can go to www.pd.net, our candy site, and you can purchase this and other candies. Thank you for watching, and if you ever make it to Tallahassee, visit Lofty Pursuits in person.